This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Tomorrow marks the beginning of the Liberal government's 2-month GST holiday that it says will give Canadians a break on the cost of some essential goods. But for businesses getting ready, it's a bit of a pain. Tax-free lists include things like Christmas trees, but not decorations, printed books, but not e-books. As CBC's Josh Crabb reports, it's left many scrambling to get ready for the change.
Oh, Merry Christmas, everybody.
As Santa prepares for his busiest time of year, the federal government is putting a new tax break under the tree.
I think a GST holiday would definitely help.
Starting Saturday, you won't have to pay the 5% goods and services tax on a number of purchases. Some of the items include food, beverages, restaurant meals, children's clothing and footwear, and children's toys. Jigsaw puzzles, video games, and consoles, and books are also covered by the tax break.
No, I think it's cool. Yeah, it's a little bit cheaper for the holidays for everybody.
I think it'll be a good help, but I guess we'll see how it really goes or what really is exempted.
Everything at Rocky Mountain Chocolate at CF Polo Park will be GST-free. Owner Shoshana Keem sees it as a sweet deal for both customers and her business.
So I think a lot of people are holding off for that extra little bit of savings, which will be nice.
While there are shoppers and stores in support of the GST holiday, for some businesses, it's more of a nuisance during an already busy time of year.
Small businesses are just scrambling, trying to get ready for Saturday. In many cases, for some retail stores, it involves going through thousands and thousands of products in their inventory.
The Canadian Federation of Independent Business says only 4% of its members believe they'll see an increase in sales. They have to reprogram point-of-sale systems to remove the GST and figure out which products qualify. Toys must be marketed for children 14 and under to get the tax holiday.
I have over 600 Lego sets in stock, and I have over 1,200 board games in stock. So I have to go through each of those products to determine the age qualifications on them.
There's this one.
Heather Campbell was one day too early to get the savings. While she didn't benefit this time, Campbell supports the GST holiday.
But in this day and age, we're all trying to get as much as we can for as little as what we have.
The tax-saving measure is set to remain in place until February 15th. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
So many of these businesses have already been under extra stress these last few weeks, dealing with fallout of the Canada Post strike. It's pushed some to take matters into their own hands to make sure customers are getting their orders on time and not looking elsewhere. CBC's Gavin Axelrod has more.
Dave Hansen is packing orders at Sage Garden greenhouses. In the past, these smaller items making up a popular holiday bundle could be mailed by Canada Post. But these days, Hansen and crew are getting creative. One solution, doing their own delivery.
So we just decided we're just going to consolidate orders, and once a week we're going to take them out on our own accord and just do the deliveries ourselves.
Hansen says typically at this time of the year, they would have anticipated about 100 orders for those bundles. As of Friday, they've hand-delivered 30 orders to customers in every corner of Winnipeg.
There's definitely a change in revenue there, and I think that really is just reflected in people's uncertainty about receiving these things, uncertainty about just what's going to happen if they hit add to cart, check out, and then it ends up in the mail stream and kind of held up ahead of the holidays.
Over at Fairface General Store on Osborne Street, the local art and gift store was in its first day of doing its own delivery in the city.
Just like necessity, just going down the list of like what our options are. Obviously, the holiday season is like big for sales in general.
On Friday, the federal government sent the contract dispute to the Canada Industrial Relations Board with directions to order postal workers back to work if it's determined the parties are at an impasse. Meaning an end to the strike might be near. But that update brings mixed feelings for the two business owners.
Everyone here at Bareface, they support the strike, they support the workers.
I'm really happy to hear that the Canada Post strike is potentially going to be resolved in short order. Clearly, the holiday season is a bust for small businesses when it comes to this.
Strike or no strike, Hansen is satisfied with his decision to do his own local delivery. He just wants to sow the seeds of a happy holiday season for his customers. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Monthly property tax payment installments in Winnipeg are going up about 50% for most homes in January. Most of this rise has nothing to do with city tax hikes. As CBC's Bartley Kivas reports, changes to provincial education tax rebates have caused monthly payments to yo-yo.
Even before City Council debates a proposed 6% property tax hike for 2025, most Winnipeg property owners will start paying more in their monthly tax installments in a matter of weeks. A provincial property tax credit for 2024 was only applied from July to December. That meant monthly installments from the last 6 months of the year were roughly half of what they were from January to June for most properties. In 2025, a different provincial tax credit will be applied across 12 months. That will bring monthly payments back up about 50%. Most Winnipeg homeowners were only notified about the higher January bills this week.
It's ridiculous. I think you can't tell people with 2 weeks to go that they have to completely change their budget for the next year ahead.
Winnipeg's taxation director said the Canada Post mail strike prevented his department from acting sooner.
In a normal non-Canada Post strike year, we would send out tip letters in the start of December to advise people what their January 1st payment would be. In this year, it's been more challenging.
Confusing matters even more. Other factors will change the January tax installments for some property owners. A new citywide property assessment will reduce the tax burden on some properties and increase it for others. And a major change to the provincial tax credit will result in even higher annual charges for owners of more valuable properties. Nonetheless, the yo-yo effect from the uneven application of that credit has City Council's finance chair bracing for backlash.
Because of the way the province handled this, everyone's going to go up in January. It has nothing to do with the city and this budget that's just been introduced.
Manitoba's finance minister says the city had 9 months to prepare for this.
I think here what we're seeing is some misalignment between our calendar years as a province and the city.
On top of the January bump, monthly installments in all Winnipeg property taxes will rise one more time next year. The full extent of city and school board tax hikes will kick in on July 1st. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Next year's draft Winnipeg budget includes millions of dollars to start work on a new outdoor pool in St. Boniface. Last year's budget called for the closure of Happyland and Windsor Park pools. The move sparked backlash from the community. The city delayed closing Windsor Park until at least after next summer, but Happyland closed despite community fundraising efforts to save it. Now, the budget calls for $2.6 million in 2025 to begin design work on a new outdoor aquatic facility in St. Boniface. Councillor Matt Allard has pushed the city for a new facility.
So it's the beginning of something. If council approves this proposed budget, then it's basically, it's a green light.
The cost of building the new facility is expected to be $10 million. Winnipeg's community drop-off composting program has exploded in popularity. Bins were set up at 15 sites across the city in October. Compost Winnipeg says the amount of organic waste dropped off is triple what they expected. They say it started right after Halloween, when people were unloading pumpkins.
That just kind of put composting into people's hands, realizing where the drop-offs were, and then they were just basically translating that behavior from just a pumpkin to household weekly waste. And so we've just seen the program blow up. It's been very successful.
She says they've added more bins and are collecting more than once a week where necessary. 40 tons of organics have been diverted from the landfill. The group is now in talks with the city about how to expand with more drop-off sites. Curbside composting is still 5 years away. Weather specialist Riley Lachuk is back in now, or in for the first time tonight. Riley, it is nice to see you because we get to say we made it. We made it through the coldest parts.
Yeah, collective sigh of relief.
Yes.
The numbers behind me look a whole lot bigger than they have been through much of this week. Minus 13 in Winnipeg right now. Afternoon temperature, as expected, hanging around minus 14 this afternoon. A bit warmer back to the west, minus 9 in Melita, minus 12 in Brandon. You'll recall those wind chill factors that we had into the minus 40 range that frostbite risk, that has started to lift. Started to see a shift in our pattern here. Throughout the day today, and those temperatures will keep going up as we get through into the night period, and really even warming up until we get into the day. Mostly clear. We have started to see a little bit of clouds start to fill in, especially into the Westman region. Expect clouds to build in as we get through the overnight period tonight. So temperature rises to -12 through the overnight period in Winnipeg. We see the winds south 20 gusting to 40, -11 in the morning, getting up to an afternoon temperature of -6 from here. Cloudy day. Brittany will talk about how warm things are going to get when I come back, along with some snow in the forecast.
And it's not a mistake. It's minus single digits. Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
We have much more local news after this short break, including a safe shelter space that's opened to help youth in need. Stay with us. This is Manitoba. And this is Manitoba on your smart TV, because CBC News is now streaming local. Get local headlines, weather, and community notices, plus newscasts and live programming on your favorite connected device, all for free.
It's called the CBC News Manitoba streaming channel. See your community on your connected TV and mobile devices. CBC News Manitoba, your local news streaming channel, now available.
This place. Every corner of Manitoba has its own story. Every community has a tale to tell.
And CBC is here to share them.
Everywhere you are.
In every way we can.
Watching, listening, reading, streaming.
Sharing. CBC, telling Manitoba's story wherever you are.
A Winnipeg organization that serves up 30,000 meals a month is expanding its services. The North End Spot has opened a new safe space geared towards youth, a place centered around cultural programming and land-based healing. CBC's Zubina Ahmed has more.
Umbishkawak, Migiziwak, or Rising Eagles just opened on Thursday. Community Helpers Unite, or CHU, launched a safe space for youth at 585 Jarvis Avenue. It caters to young people ages 12 to 18 years old. Brandy Bobbier from CHU says the space offers more than just hot meals to the marginalized youth.
We're hoping to engage youth with culturally appropriate activities and knowledge, and have aunties and uncles and mooshums and kookums coming in to volunteer to just share their time with the youth.
The space is open Thursdays to Sundays from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Bobbier says they want this to be a place where the youth can feel engaged and welcome.
Provide that support to the youth. Let them have a place where they can go and feel engaged and welcome, and advocate for themselves. You know, we're looking to, a lot of our programming is based around the circle of courage and building their own independent capacity to make decisions themselves and feel confident and feel sure of themselves and feel like they belong.
Bobbier says they will also provide anti-gang and anti-crime classes. They also offer self-awareness programs as well as problem-solving and coping skills.
We have some traditional knowledge keepers that are coming in to do workshops like medicine bag making, drum making. We have a couple of artists coming in to do some art classes, one of which will be a mural. The end project will be a mural.
Bobbier says funding for the space came from the Building Safer Communities Fund via the City of Winnipeg. She's looking to get more funding to operate all 7 days a week. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
3 sports organizations for young people in Manitoba are benefiting from last year's World Police and Fire Games. Winnipeg hosted the event last summer, and there's more than $300,000 left over. The host society will give $180,000 to 3 sports organizations for youth in our province. It will be split evenly between the Winnipeg Aboriginal Sport Achievement Centre, Kids Sport, and the Manitoba Aboriginal Sport and Recreation Council. Dustin Eyre is with Kids Sport.
It's a tremendous donation that we've received. It usually takes up to about 5 or 6 donors to be able to fund one child. So to be able to fund 120 in Manitoba next year is something that we greatly appreciate.
9 sports venues around the province that were used in the games will also receive $10,000 each, and $34,000 is being set aside to help future police and firefighters participate in the games. Ottawa is giving an organization at the University of Manitoba a $206,000 grant to help guide people on the path of reconciliation. The Canadian Reconciliation Barometer promotes and tracks progress in reconciliation. It was one of the calls to action in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Winnipeg South MP Terry Duguid says the work of the group is necessary.
The ultimate goal of the Canadian Reconciliation Barometer project is to build greater understanding and foster healing between Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities all over Canada, something we all want and desperately need.
Group members say the money will be used to create an advisory committee, including Indigenous and non-Indigenous members, develop educational materials, and increase its online presence. Riley, boy, oh boy, what a difference. Just a few hours really makes. CAA sure was busy giving people boosts around the city. And I'm starting to keep track from friends that I see posting how many people have driven away with their block heater. Still attached. Haven't done it yet, but I know that there's lots of you out there that did it over the last few days.
No, I haven't done it yet either. I know it's bound to happen.
It's still early.
It's still early. There's time. We're through the worst of it for now. Yeah, for now. A little more precipitation on the way. The trade-off is with the warmer temperatures, some cloud, better chance for some snow, but we do get back into the colder weather next week again.
So we're warmer. We're just going to get hit with a snowball now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hey, a white Christmas.
Snowball fights.
It's a white Christmas. If you're like me, your car probably looks like this right now. After that big warm-up we had, and then that big freeze, didn't want to wash it in that big deep freeze. But you know what? I thought I'd pull out the car wash forecast because I think all of us could probably use a good car wash by now. Your car won't freeze solid if you take it to the car wash tomorrow. Not the best day, just because we are expecting some precipitation Sunday into Monday. Sunday could be a bit sloppy, but if you need to, if it's really, really dirty, tomorrow is probably your best day to do that, because again, we are looking at a sloppier day on Sunday with the temperatures warming up and some snow rolling through on Monday. So looking at Futurecast, still a few scattered flurries along the Hudson Bay coast. That does still continue even into the morning hours tomorrow. Then that risk tapers off as we get into Saturday. For the rest of us, cloud starts to build in. So a mix of sun and clouds by first thing in the morning, but as we get through the day, more like cloudy with sunny breaks by the afternoon, before we get to a mainly cloudy sky by the time we get into Sunday. Then this is our next weather maker here, a Colorado low. I know what you're thinking. Boy, oh boy, here we go again when I say the words Colorado low. This one not packing quite as much a punch as it usually does when we see these Colorado lows moving through. So along this boundary here, we do see a risk of freezing rain. That's particularly into the Parkland region, into extreme western Manitoba. But along that, we will see snow moving through as we get through the day on Monday. Not talking a huge accumulating snow. Again, this one not packing quite as big of a punch as it usually does when it comes to Colorado lows. So this number in Port Hope area I think is a little bit high, but generally 5 centimeters, probably a good benchmark for snow through southern Manitoba as we get into the day on Monday. Again, we could see some locally higher pockets of snow, but again, not a huge dump. Just enough to shuffle as we get through into the day on Saturday. Winds still stick around into the day on Saturday, looking at south winds 30 gusting to 50 tomorrow. Temperatures rise to the overnight period, -11 first thing in Winnipeg, -12 in Dauphin first thing in the morning. So closer to seasonal. We're jumping above seasonal for Saturday. Clouds build in, -7 through the day. We see that snow moving through Monday. Temperature falls to -10 in the afternoon. And then, Brittany, a little bit closer to seasonal by the time we get to Tuesday and Wednesday of next week once again.
Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
We have much more to come tonight, but first we have to take another break. We're back right after this. Stay with us. Federal intervention came today in the Canada Post strike. Now, workers haven't yet been ordered back on the job, but they may be very soon. The CBC's Marina von Stackelberg reports.
Canadians are rightly fed up.
Canada's Labour Minister is stepping in to end the 4-week-long Canada Post strike.
Suffice to say that positions appeared to have hardened. It became very clear to me that we were in a total impasse.
Stephen McKinnon will use Section 107 of the Canada Labour Code. It's the same way he's ended nearly every other major labour dispute this year. In this case, he'll ask the Canada Industrial Relations Board to decide if Canada Post and the union are far from reaching a deal. If there's no end in sight, the board will order them back to work.
That could happen as early next week.
In a statement, Canada Post says, "We look forward to welcoming our employees back to work and serving Canadians and customers. We will take all appropriate steps to support that process as quickly as possible."
What they're doing here
The union says the minister has done exactly what he said he wouldn't do by essentially forcing them back on the job.
It's like a big bucket of water. He's making it so employers can bargain to an impasse and then expect some sort of law or some sort of intervention under 107 to go, hey, you don't have to give the workers anything, I'll take care of that.
In the past, a government wanting to end a strike had to pass back-to-work legislation. This new method skirts that important democratic safeguard.
It was a surprise to many of us when we saw this little-known provision in the Canada Labour Code being used by the minister and used in such a promiscuous fashion to end all of these strikes and lockouts in the federally regulated industries.
It's likely these unions will take the federal government to court for violating their constitutional right to strike. But a judge's decision on that could take more than a year. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
Canada's premiers will meet in Toronto on Monday to discuss how to respond to Donald Trump's threatened 25% tariff. The federal government is trying to strike a Team Canada approach to tackling the potential crisis. BC has joined Ontario in publicly considering whether to cut off energy exports, but others say a trade war is a bad idea. Rafi Boudjkanian has the story for us from Ottawa.
Just days away from a meeting with his Canadian counterparts, Doug Ford is showing no signs of backing down.
We put a tariff on bourbon last time. LCBO is one of the largest purchasers of alcohol in the entire world. But I'd prefer not to do any of this. I'd prefer to make a deal with the energy that I mentioned the other day. That's another tool. But would I rather send them energy, sell them more energy? Absolutely.
Cutting off electricity is something British Columbia is now considering too.
British Columbia provides peak power support all the way down the west coast of the United States to Washington State, Oregon, and California. We sold $1 billion worth of electricity to those states last year.
Washington State is asking EB to put the brakes on that idea. In a statement, it said it would hurt people in both jurisdictions to stop that trade. We share the concern about tariffs on electricity imports from Canada, in particular the costs that this would impose on Washington consumers and businesses. No one wins by turning our closest friends into enemies.
We'll be announcing some pretty significant border security measures in the coming days.
The federal government telegraphing it's doing anything it can to ward off a trade war, while insisting a unified approach by elected officials here is still what's happening off camera, despite the bluster by some in front of them.
Premiers surprisingly answer questions from journalists when they're asked, and they don't all have the same views. That's as old as Confederation. But in the meetings I've been in and in my conversations with premiers, they recognize the importance of the country speaking with one voice.
Another such meeting is around the corner this weekend, and then the government says it will begin to reveal its border plan in the fall economic statement on Monday, with more to come over the week as it starts getting ready to add hundreds of border officers on the ground next year. Rafi Boudjkanian on CBC News, Ottawa.
The head of Air Canada testified before a parliamentary committee today and answered questions about the airline's recent decision to charge travellers extra fees for carry-on baggage. The head of the company defended the move, saying it's necessary to remain competitive in the market.
True competition requires companies to respond to market forces. This is exactly what we're doing. We are aligning our lowest fare policies with those already offered by our competitors, WestJet, Porter, and Flair, to be in a better position to compete for price-conscious customers.
Executives from WestJet, Air Transat, and Porter Airlines also testified before the Standing Committee on Transport, Infrastructure and Communities. In recent years, those airlines have started charging add-on fees that were once included in the cost of a ticket. That includes checked bags, onboard snacks, and Wi-Fi access. Committee members say that's making air travel unaffordable for Canadians. But one of the executives who testified today said air travel is especially expensive in Canada because of government policies and third-party fees. Jewelry store robberies are on the rise in Canada's biggest city, and the numbers have tripled in one part of the Greater Toronto Area. Thomas Stagg takes a look at the disturbing trend and its cause.
Outside a Toronto jewelry store on a recent evening, at least 8 masked suspects are seen charging in, captured on security video trying to smash through the door, until quick-thinking staff reach for a sword to fight off those would-be robbers. Yes, for jewelry store workers, it's come to this.
We were scared. We were like, it was a scared to death kind of situation, you know, when somebody got into your store.
Area jewelers are reporting a steep rise in robberies, nearly 100 this year, like this brazen smash and grab at a suburban mall last week that left one employee on the floor, injured and terrorized. The man recording this video runs after the robbers all the way to their car.
A lot of these stolen goods are being sold at less than scrupulous businesses, whether they're, say, cash or gold exchanges, or they're, say, a flea market.
Again, oh my God!
Police in Toronto say reported jewelry store robberies have doubled this year, while in some suburbs they've more than tripled. Watch as this suspect shows off a hammer, then takes off, with mall security left helpless.
It's worse. It's like a bad you cannot even imagine.
You see this stuff in movies, and when you witness it firsthand and when you go through that experience, it's definitely traumatizing.
So why are jewelers being targeted now? This industry expert has a hunch. As more consumers pay by card and fewer retailers carry much cash.
Jewelry stores are also not full of money, but they do have gold, and gold can be turned into money relatively easily, and gold prices have gone wild.
As for that sword-wielding store worker who warded off the would-be robbers, seconds later the whole group is seen running away, empty-handed. Thomas Stagg, CBC News, Toronto.
3 medical workers were wounded in Israeli airstrikes in and around a hospital in northern Gaza overnight. A local doctor says there were numerous drone and artillery strikes. Local medics say an earlier Israeli airstrike on a post office killed 30 Palestinians who were sheltering there and wounded 50 others. Israel says it was targeting a senior Islamic Jihad member who's overseen strikes on Israeli civilians, and troops. Israel has also accused Islamic militants of using civilians as human shields. Ukraine's president issued yet another plea today for more Western military support. It was in response to a major Russian air assault that hit several cities. But it also came with potentially critical battles looming either side of the border. The CBC's Briar Stewart reports.
Nearly 300 Russian drones and missiles sent some in Kyiv into a metro station to seek shelter. Every night there's an air alarm. My child is always scared, said this mother, who previously fled fighting in the south and is now living in Kyiv. This was the 12th attack this year on Ukraine's battered energy system, but caught up in it too, this home in western Ukraine, damaged by an explosion. In most cities, life carried on with the hum of generators. But in Pokrovsk in the southeast, there's no power, gas, or water, and the Russian military is now just a few kilometers away. The Russians have already positioned themselves behind our house in the forest, said this city worker who's planning to leave. Pokrovsk, a logistical hub, has long been a target of Russia. Those residents still here either can't or won't leave. They only make the dangerous journey into the deserted streets to pick up supplies. Russian troops are advancing in the southeast and putting pressure on Ukraine in the north, in the Kursk region, where Kyiv still controls several hundred kilometers of Russian territory.
We'll be here until the end.
CBC News spoke to soldiers stationed in Kursk who asked only to be identified by their military call signs. It seems that the Russians are trying to quickly retake the Kursk region before Trump's inauguration, said this soldier, adding that Moscow thinks it will create an advantage when it comes to negotiations. But what kind of negotiations can there be, he said. Even if there was some kind of deal, he believes it would only be temporary. And that the war, which has been grinding on for nearly 3 years, would quickly flare up again. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
The Christmas cheer board has been busy sorting and packing donations to fill those holiday hampers, but there's just one thing they still need. We'll have more on that story after the break. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Stay with us. For families in need, a hamper during the holidays can change everything. Well, the Christmas Cheer Board has been busy gathering, sorting, and packing donations and goods. There are thousands that need to be dropped off and delivered around the city, and the organization is calling for your help. Zubina Ahmed has more.
With Christmas less than 2 weeks away, the Christmas Cheer Board of Winnipeg is asking for help. Executive Director Shauna Bell says they still have more than 10,000 hampers in their warehouse that need to be delivered to families in need.
We're hopeful that drivers will come out and help us get those hamper packages into those folks' hands so that they can have a nice holiday season.
Bell says anyone with a vehicle who's willing to spare some time can drop by the warehouse at 895 Century Street to help them with deliveries.
It's just like Christmas shopping. Everybody puts it off until the last minute, and now it's time, and it's a rush to get the hampers out. And so folks, if they have just an hour or two of time that they want to come out and help us, it just goes such a long way.
Bell says they usually have volunteers come from every area of the city. She hopes there will be more people willing to come by the weekend once the temperature rises.
We've had some of the police services come in to help out. We've had just general large organizations send some of their staff to come. I think the military does actually come and do a whole truckload of deliveries for us as well. So it really comes from all parts of the community.
The Christmas Cheer Board's warehouse is open from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Friday and 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on weekends. Bell says the last day for deliveries is December 23rd. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Riley's back, and Riley, we were telling people to stay indoors, maybe not go on those dog walks because the pups were going to get a little too cold. They might need to get out over the next few days.
Pent up energy.
And they might not even need to wear their booties, depending what time of day you go out.
Exactly. We are looking at temperatures rising pretty much from now right through into the day on Sunday. So it's a good weekend to get outside. Winds a little strong, but nothing that we can't handle.
Deal with
it's a southerly wind, so here is the cat walking forecast because, hey, you know what? I'm sure the cats are probably itching to get outside too. Or maybe they just want to nap. I don't know. Either or. Molly and Mulan probably are in that napping crew. You can send your pictures to talkback@cbc.ca. Like always, I love seeing your pets. -9 by 8 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. That's sort of your wake-up temperature, right around -10 first thing in the morning, really across southern Manitoba. Warming up to -6, that's an afternoon temperature tomorrow afternoon. Then we're going to continue to rise from there. These south winds, 20 gusting to 40. The winds will be a bit of a feature as we get through the weekend, but things will be dying off as we get into the early part of next week. Monday's still a windy one, though. So significantly different picture than we've had over the last several days. You can see this big upper ridge that is now built into the jet stream, allowing some of that warm southerly air into the prairie provinces. That does start to slump, though, once we get through the weekend. We'll see that system roll through, and then an Arctic ridge starts to build in, and this returns us to seasonal to more below seasonal conditions as we get into the middle and end of next week. And you can even see some of these shades of pink along the Hudson Bay coast returning. Those are temperatures -25, -30 and colder. So short-lived warm-up before we return to more seasonal conditions as we get into the deeper part of next week when we start to see a bit of a cool down. Overnight temperatures look like this. For the most part, these are temperatures that we'll see into the late evening into the overnight hours as we see them rising. So -13 in Winnipeg and in Brandon, -17 in Dauphin, where we'll see a bit more of a clear sky through the overnight period as we start to see some cloud starting to build its way in. Still some scattered flurries along the Hudson Bay coast, -15 in Churchill tonight, -16 in Lynn Lake. Through the day tomorrow, cloud starts to build in into northern Manitoba, so a mostly cloudy day. Temperatures fairly seasonal for this time of the year across northern Manitoba, even above seasonal for places like Norway House into Barons River at -8 tomorrow afternoon. Into southern Manitoba, looking at the cloud building in as well, so some sunny breaks as we get through the day on Saturday. -single digits by the lunch hour, and we see those temperatures continuing to rise as we get later in the day. -6 by 4 o'clock in the afternoon in Winnipeg. Into Sunday, a mainly cloudy day, -3 for Brandon, Brittany. We're looking at temperatures rising to -2 by late Sunday in Winnipeg.
Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, she's worked for decades to pass on knowledge as an Ojibwe language teacher. After a 2-year pandemic delay, Patricia Ningwatz received her Order of Canada medal. She spoke this morning from Ottawa to Marcy Marcusa.
What did it feel like for you yesterday to receive this honor?
It was very special. There were, a room full of other honorees, amazing people. It was just very humbling to be in the company of all these scientists and, wonderful people.
What moments particularly stood out from the day for you?
Talking with the other people, talking with, I spent some time between two honorees and had a really good discussion with them. Their path, how they got there. That's what really struck me. And it was so nice to see my family there too, as part of the audience when we're being in a procession.
Mm-hmm.
That was so very special.
Your family is also already carrying on language. Your grandson Ondeg was actually voiced Luke Skywalker in Star Wars and Anishinaabe He teaches now over at the university level as well language.
Yes.
How does it feel for you that you're already seeing the your work being passed on through your family and having this kind of impact to preserve the language?
It's totally awesome. I'm very humbly happy that my grandson is following in my footsteps, exactly doing the work I was doing at his age, and to know that he's going to continue this work in the future. That's very special.
His age is in his 20s, so you started doing this in your 20s, which of course would have been just a very different time, to say the least, in this country. What motivated you in those early days to understand and dedicate yourself to preserving the language?
I think it's my mother and my grandmother. They were language nerds. Now that I think about it, they loved talking in the language, especially my mother. She could come up with these really unusual words, and now that I'm working on my dictionary for the University of Manitoba, I recall those words and I'm putting them in there because otherwise they'll disappear forever.
When you were there yesterday, did you reflect on your journey? Thinking about your own journey in this country and the history of residential schools in your own family, and then there you are receiving this honor with such a complicated history with Canada. When you're getting that medal put around your neck.
Yes. They didn't give us a medal around our necks. That's the next level.
Got it. Okay.
We get a medal to hang on our chest.
Got it.
In a pin. Anyway, yeah. I think what I thought about mostly was getting this award, this honor. It brings me the opportunity to talk about my favorite subject, talk about my vision of the Ojibwe language 100 years from now. I've written a 100-year plan to ensure that we will have a language spoken in that time.
So tell us what's key to that plan.
Okay, one thing we have to do is create speakers like Andek, my grandson, through immersion programs, really good programs that will get them speaking. And then the other thing we need to do is to promote the language. We have to get rid of the blocks that we have that prevents us from passing on the language to the next generation. And that prevents the students from saying words. They really get stuck in their throats. The other thing we need to do is modernize the language so that we can use it without having to resort to English words. And of course, the most important one will be to create movies, audio materials, novels, so that the language will, as spoken, will live.
What does it mean to you right now to already see people starting to really, lean in and embrace the language and reclaim it as part of culture?
That's wonderful, totally wonderful. And a lot of these young people are from homes where the language was suppressed by their parents because of what they experienced as children. And so to see them break through that, to try, my students at the university are really good examples. They're so committed. They're so beautiful.
Still ahead, Riley's back with a last check on our weekend forecast. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Stay with us. This is Manitoba. And this is Manitoba on your smart TV, because CBC News is now streaming local. Get local headlines, weather, and community notices, plus newscasts and live programming on your favorite connected device, all for free. It's called the CBC News Manitoba streaming channel. See your community on your connected TV and mobile devices. CBC News Manitoba, your local news streaming channel, now available. For astronomers, professional and amateur alike, one of the biggest events of the holidays is the annual Geminids meteor shower, and this year's reaches its peak over the next 2 nights. The Geminids are one of the most spectacular meteor showers. This year, though, an almost full moon will dim their luster. Some years, the moon is part of the show, with flashes visible from meteors striking its surface. It's believed the meteors originate from an asteroid that was only discovered in 1983.
So if you're heading out to do some holiday shopping, maybe you're picking up the tree this weekend, prepare for a windy one this weekend. Saturday, we're looking at an afternoon temperature of -7. We'll see that temperature rising as we get through the overnight period. Saturday into Sunday, more cloud cover, -2 on Sunday, and we see that snow and a little bit more wind picks up as we head into the day on Monday, to the tune of a general 5 centimeters across southern Manitoba on Monday. Could see some locally higher pockets. Along with that, gusty northwesterly winds, 30 gusting to 50. That drives our temperature down to -10 by the afternoon. -12s for Tuesday and Wednesday. Then we're looking at a seasonal -9 for Thursday and -17 turns on Friday, along with Arctic ridge that will really cool us down.
Of course.
I know. Well, it's not exactly Spartacus on ice.
But the Roman gladiator turned rebel would have easily recognized the venue. Here's your daily lift. A town in northern Croatia has lit up its ancient Roman amphitheater with festive Christmas spirit, transforming the historic site into a bustling ice rink.
The amphitheater is the only one of its kind to have all 4 sides entirely preserved. It's now morphed from a showcase for gladiator battles and chariot races to an event venue with an ice rink, just in time for the holiday season. Isn't that pretty?
As a former figure skater, that is somewhere I feel I need to go. That looks
like
so cool.
A bucket list item.
Right?
Yeah.
I thought the river was a bucket list, but hey.
As long as it's not too cold.
Yes. Warming up, so
Yes.
have a wonderful weekend.
Have a great
See you
weekend.
back here on Monday.